Okay, so now let's talk about integer data types. And this starts getting into why we spent time learning about binary numbers. So there's a bunch of different integer data types, and so let's just look at these. First of all, well, we've already seen the int. So if we have a variable that's int, so let's say we have int apples, that means that we're saying that variable is an int, and the size for that is 4 bytes. And the reason why this says typical size is because the size is partly based on your compiler and operating system. So it's typically 4 bytes, but it could be something a little bit different. And then this has the typical range that you can, the range of the value of number that you can store in the integer variable type. And so all, like this integer is signed, so that means we can store positive and negative numbers, so this is signed. And if we look at the one below it, notice how we have unsigned int. So the unsigned int means that we're only storing positive numbers in that variable. This is, once again, 4 bytes, and this is the range of value that we can store in that number. And so you can see why it would be, like if you know your number can never be negative, it would be convenient to store it as an unsigned because you have a much larger range of numbers that you can store in that variable. Some of the others that we have, there's a short int, so this one is signed, so we can store positive and negative numbers. This one's 2 bytes, and the range negative 32,000, well, 768 to 32,767. Unsigned short int is positive numbers only, so that's an unsigned short integer, so it's 2 bytes typically. Then we have some long ints, so this long int is 4 bytes, and this is typical again, so some compilers, the long int might be like 8 bytes or something longer than this. And then we have the long int. So we can write these, like let's say, so we've already seen how to declare a variable with int apples. Let's say that we have a short int, so let's say we know apples is within this range of negative 32,768 to 32,767. We could declare that as a short int apples. And this might be something you want to do if you're trying to conserve space when you're writing your program and you know your values are going to be on the smaller side. This can also be written as just short apples. So you could declare a short integer variable either way, so either short int apples or just short apples. And we can do a similar thing with these others, so let's say we have unsigned short int, and let's just say this is apples. We can also write this as unsigned short apples. And we can basically do this with all of these. So on the unsigned int, we can just write unsigned. On the long int, we can just write long. So let's say long int apples. We could just say long apples. So either one of these are valid ways to declare these variables.